A chair is not just an object, it is a question. How do you hold yourself when no one is demanding anything from you? What support do you seek? What comfort do you allow? The chair you choose reveals not where you sit, but how you rest. And how you rest reveals everything about how you live. Today, we invite you to choose, not with your mind, but with your body, with the part of you that knows what it needs before the mind can name it. Before you are three choices: a simple wooden chair, a soft velvet armchair, and an empty floor space with nothing at all. Do not think about which one is correct. Do not choose based on what you think it says about you. Do not select the one that sounds most enlightened or impressive. Instead, imagine yourself at the end of a long day, exhausted, raw, with no energy left to perform. Which one calls to you? Which one feels like home? Alan Watts once said that the only thing you need to know is how to rest. So choose the space where you can finally stop holding yourself together. Your choice is made. Now let us see what it reveals about the way you carry yourself through the world. If the wooden chair called to you, you do not trust ease. You are the one who believes that comfort makes you soft, that support makes you dependent, that to truly rest, you must earn it. And so you choose the chair that demands something from you, even in stillness. The straight back, the hard seat, the posture that does not let you forget you are still responsible, still holding, still on. This is your strength. You have cultivated discipline when others cultivated excuses. You have learned to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. You do not wait for motivation. You do not require ideal conditions. You simply sit down on the hard chair and you do the work. People respect your consistency, your reliability, your refusal to collapse when things become difficult. You are the person who keeps promises, who finishes what they start, who shows up even when showing up feels impossible. You understand that character is built in discomfort, that growth happens at the edge of what you think you can endure. And you have made peace with the fact that the path you walk is not the easy one. It is the one that makes you strong. The wooden chair does not betray you with false comfort. It does not let you sink so deep into ease that you forget who you are. It holds you upright. It reminds you that you are still here, still present, still accountable. But the wooden chair carries a rigidity that eventually breaks you, because you have spent so long sitting upright that you have forgotten how to lean. So long holding yourself together that you do not know what would happen if you let go. You equate rest with weakness, softness with failure, and so you never truly rest. You only pause between efforts. You only stop when you are too exhausted to continue. You tell yourself, this is strength, this is integrity. This is what it means to be disciplined. But Watts would ask you, who taught you that you are only valuable when you are uncomfortable? That ease is something to be earned, rather than something you are allowed to feel. You sit on the wooden chair and you tell yourself you are fine. But your body knows better. It carries the ache of years spent refusing to soften. The tension of decades spent believing that to be supported is to be weak. And here is the cost. You become so hard that nothing can touch you. Not joy, not love. Not the simple pleasure of letting your weight be held by something other than your own effort. You survive, but you do not live. You endure, but you do not enjoy. The wooden chair has become your identity, and you are terrified to choose anything softer because you do not know who you would be without the hardness. Watts once said that muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. The wooden chair has taught you discipline, structure, the ability to hold yourself when everything around you is falling apart. But what it is teaching you now is that there is a difference between strength and rigidity, between discipline and punishment, between holding yourself accountable and never allowing yourself to be held. You are learning this, that rest is not something you earn, it is something you need. That softness is not weakness, is the only thing that keeps hardness from becoming brittleness. That to allow yourself to be supported is not dependence, it is wisdom. The wooden chair will always be there. Your discipline will not disappear if you sit in something softer. Your strength will not vanish if you lean back. You will not become lazy or undisciplined or weak, simply because you allow yourself to feel comfortable. This is your teaching, that you can be both disciplined and gentle, both strong and soft, that the greatest discipline is knowing when to hold and when to release, when to sit upright and when to finally, mercifully, let your body rest. If you chose the wooden chair, you have earned every bit of strength you carry. You do not need to abandon discipline to experience ease. You only need to stop believing that ease is the enemy of growth. Your true self is not the hardness. It is the awareness that can be both firm and gentle, without losing itself in either. And when you finally allow yourself to sit in something softer, not forever, but sometimes you will discover that you were never holding yourself together through force. You were holding yourself together through fear. And the moment you stop being afraid of comfort is the moment you become truly strong. If the velvet armchair called to you, you know that softness is not weakness. You are the one who has learned that to be held is not to be helpless. That to sink into comfort is not to lose yourself. That there is a kind of strength that comes not from enduring, but from allowing, from receiving. From finally, after years of holding everyone else, letting yourself be held. This is your wisdom. You understand that life is not a test to be passed through gritted teeth. It is an experience to be felt. And feeling requires softness. It requires the willingness to let your armor down, to let your body be supported, to trust that you can relax without disappearing. You are drawn to beauty, to comfort, to environments that feel like an embrace. Not because you are fragile, but because you have been strong for so long that you have earned the right to rest. You create spaces that allow others to soften, and in doing so, you give them permission to be human. People feel safe in your presence because you do not demand that they be strong. You offer them the velvet armchair of your attentions, supportive, unconditional. You remind them that they are allowed to be tired, allowed to be vulnerable, allowed to need. You are the nurturer, the one who knows that the deepest healing happens not in struggle, but in the gentle allowing of what is. But the velvet armchair carries a danger that hides in its comfort. Because when you are always soft, you can forget that you also have edges. When you are always giving, you can forget that you also have needs. When you are always the safe place for others, you can lose track of who holds space for you. You sink into the armchair and you tell yourself you are resting, but you are not. You are disappearing. You are making yourself so comfortable with being needed that you have forgotten how to need, so accustomed to being the nurturer that you have lost the ability to ask for nurturing. The velvet armchair becomes a hiding place, a space where you can disappear into the role of caretaker, supporter, holder of space, and never have to face the terrifying question: if I am not giving, who am I? You pour yourself into others until you are empty, and then you sit in the velvet armchair and wonder why rest does not restore you, why comfort feels hollow, why the softness you offer everyone else does not seem to work when you offer it to yourself. Watts would ask you, are you resting or are you avoiding? Are you being gentle with yourself, or are you using gentleness as an excuse to never show your strength? Watts taught that you cannot have a front without a back. You cannot have softness without firmness to give it shape. The velvet armchair has taught you how to receive, how to allow, how to soften in a world that demands hardness. But what it is teaching you now is that true nurturing includes boundaries. That real support sometimes means saying no, that the deepest care you can offer to yourself and to others is not always soft. You are learning this, that you can be gentle without being permissive, soft without being shapeless, nurturing without being sacrificing, that the armchair can be comfortable without swallowing you whole. The velvet armchair is not a trap, but it becomes one when you use it to hide from your own strength. When you sink so deeply into the role of nurturer that you forget you are also allowed to be the one who needs nurturing. When you make yourself so available to others that you become unavailable to yourself. This is your teaching, that rest is not the same as disappearing, that softness is not the absence of boundaries, that to truly take care of others, you must first learn to take care of yourself, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. If you chose the velvet armchair, you know that gentleness is a form of courage. You do not need to harden yourself to matter. You only need to remember that you are allowed to have needs, wants, and limits even, while creating space for others. Your true self is not the nurturer. It is the awareness that can give and receive, hold and be held, without losing itself in either role. And when you finally allow yourself to sit in the armchair, not to hide, but to truly rest, you will discover that you were never weak for needing softness. You were only human. And being human is the bravest thing you could ever be. If the empty floor space called to you, you do not need anything to be complete. You are the one who has learned that support is not found in objects, but in presence. That comfort is not about what surrounds you, but about how you relate to what is. You sit on the floor, not because you are rejecting comfort, but because you have discovered that true comfort is internal, that you can be at ease anywhere, with nothing, simply because you are here. This is your freedom. You do not require ideal conditions to be at peace. You do not need the perfect environment to feel whole. You have learned to carry your center with you, and because of that, every space is home. Every moment is enough. Every breath is complete. You are drawn to simplicity. 2. Minimalism. 2. The stripping away of everything unnecessary, until what remains is just you and the floor, and the quiet recognition that this is all you ever needed. No props, no supports, no distractions from the direct experience of being alive. People are confused by your contentment. They see you sitting on the floor when there are chairs available, and they think you are punishing yourself. They do not understand that you are not rejecting comfort, you are simply not dependent on it. You have found something they are still searching for, the ability to be at peace with what is. You are the liberated one, the one who needs nothing because you have everything, the one who sits on the floor and feels wealthier than kings. But the empty floor space carries a shadow that is difficult to name, because when you need nothing, you can also refuse everything. When you are comfortable with nothing, you can reject all offers of support as if accepting them would compromise your freedom. You tell yourself you are liberated, but what you are really doing is protecting yourself from the vulnerability of needing. You sit on the floor and you call it freedom. But is it freedom or is it control? Is it liberation or is it the fear of depending on anything that could be taken away? You have learned to need nothing because you are terrified of what happens when you need something and it is not there. The empty floor space becomes your identity. You are the one who does not need, the one who has transcended, the one who is above the petty concerns of comfort and support. And in that transcendence, you are also alone, untouchable, safe in your self-sufficiency, and isolated by it. You reject the wooden chair because it looks like discipline you do not need. You reject the velvet armchair because it looks like dependence you cannot allow. And you sit on the floor, telling yourself you are free, never realizing that you have built a prison out of your own independence. Watts would ask you, is liberation the same as isolation? Is freedom the ability to need nothing, or the ability to need without fear? Watts once said that the self and the other are not separate, they are two aspects of one process. The empty floor space has taught you that you do not need external things to be complete, that you can be at peace in any condition, that true freedom is internal, not external. But what it is teaching you now is that choosing nothing is still a choice. And sometimes that choice is not about liberation, it is about protection. You are learning this, that true freedom includes the freedom to need, to accept support, to lean on something outside yourself without believing that doing so makes you less free. That the most liberated people are not the ones who need nothing, they are the ones who can need without shame. The floor is solid, it is always there. It will never betray you or disappoint you or leave you. But it is also hard and cold, and it offers nothing back. It does not embrace you, it does not soften under your weight. It simply is, and you are simply there, and the space between you is called freedom, but sometimes it feels like distance. This is your teaching, that you do not need to reject support to remain free. That accepting a chair does not make you dependent. That leaning does not mean you have lost your center. That true liberation is not about needing nothing, it is about being free to choose what you need, without fear of what that need means. If you chose the empty floor space, you have learned that you are enough. You do not need to prove your independence by rejecting all support. You only need to remember that the ability to be alone is not the same as the requirement to be alone. Your true self is not the one who needs nothing. It is the awareness that can need and not need, accept and refuse, sit on the floor or in the chair without being defined by either. And when you finally allow yourself to accept support not because you need it to survive, but because you are human and humans are wired for connection, you will discover that you were never rejecting dependence. You were only protecting yourself from disappointment. And the moment you stop protecting is the moment you start living. Chairs are not neutral. They are mirrors. They reflect how you believe you are allowed to exist in the world. The wooden chair for those who believe they must earn rest through discipline. The velvet armchair for those who have learned that softness is not surrender. The empty floor space for those who have discovered that freedom is internal. Carl Jung would say that what you are drawn to reveals what you are integrating. The disciplined learning to soften. The nurturer learning to have boundaries. The liberated learning to need. But Alan Watts would remind you, you are not the chair. You are not the way you sit. You are the awareness that can sit in any position without being defined by it. The test was never about which chair you chose. It was about recognizing that you are not limited to one way of being. That you can be disciplined and soft, nurturing and boundaried, independent and connected. You are not the chair. You are the space in which all chairs and all ways of sitting appear. And that space is always free, always whole, always enough. So what now? Perhaps you saw yourself in the chair you chose. Perhaps you recognized the pattern you have been living. Perhaps you felt uncomfortable because the chair revealed something you have been defending for years. All of this is the process. You are not here to find the right chair. You are here to notice what your choice reveals about how you hold yourself, how you rest, what you believe you are allowed to need. Today, you chose one chair. Tomorrow, you may choose another. Not because you were wrong, but because you are learning. Because the disciplined are learning to soften. Because the nurturers are learning to have edges. Because the liberated are learning to need. Do not make the chair your identity. Do not use it as another label to explain yourself. Let it show you where you are, and then choose differently if you need to. Because the truth is, you are not the wooden chair. Not the velvet armchair. Not the empty floor space. You are the one who can sit anywhere, in any way, and still remain yourself. The awareness that is not bound by how it rests, but free in every moment to choose what it needs. And that freedom is not something you earn or achieve or transcend your way into. It is what you already are. It is what you have always been. Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." Today you chose a chair. But the chair was not the point. The point was to notice how you hold yourself when you think no one is watching. How you rest when you believe rest is allowed. What support you seek when you finally stop performing. The chair revealed something about your relationship with yourself. But it cannot define you, because what you are is not an object, not a position, not a way of sitting. You are the awareness that makes all sitting possible. The consciousness that can be disciplined or soft or free without being trapped by any of them. So sit in your chair, or sit on the floor, or stand, if that is what you need. But never forget, you are not the position. You are the one who chooses it. And that choosing, moment by moment, is the only freedom you ever needed. If something in this reflection made you pause, if you recognized yourself in the chair you chose, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Not to explain, not to defend, but simply to acknowledge what you saw. To witness and be witnessed by others who are also learning how they are allowed to rest. Each comment is a recognition. Each share is a permission. And subscribe to this channel so we can grow together. Here, we create the space where all of us are learning that we are allowed to be exactly as we are. There are more reflections waiting, more symbols, more invitations to see yourself clearly, without judgment, without shame, without the need to be anything other than what you already are. Stay, not because you need to, but because something in you knows this is where you belong. And until we meet again, Remember this: you are not the chair. You are not the way you sit. You are the awareness that can choose any position and remain free. And that awareness has been here all along, waiting for you to notice. See you in the next reflection.